So, argumentation, in other words, is a kind of filter. The norms we take for granted when we engage in argumentation filter out certain types of norms right off the bat. So they rule out a norm like, no one may ever use any scarce resources. That's contradicted in the very act of arguing it, because you're using the scarce resources of your vocal cords, your body, the food that keeps you alive, the standing room where you're standing. Those are all scarce resources. So you can't, in a non-contradictory way, make that argument. So a norm like that is ruled out by the very norms of argumentation itself. You could say there's a logical factor that's ruled out by argumentation. Contradictions. Trying to argue for a contradiction is ruled out by the norms of argumentation, because argumentation takes for granted that in a peaceful way you can expect to persuade the whole world, at least in principle. There's no way you can persuade the whole world of a contradiction, because contradictions are untrue. But argumentation also rules out particularistic norms. I can hit you, you can't hit me. Again, the world could not be expected to accept this in argument. So, given again that argumentation is a peaceful, conflict-avoiding way of dealing with disagreements, this now leads us to the last part, F, which is libertarian property rights. According to Hoppe, only libertarianism, the libertarian first user, I'm the first one who's mixed my labor with this unowned resource, and then I can transfer it to subsequent owners. Only this norm can be argumentatively justified in discourse, because first, it is an objective link. It's not just I feel like I should own this. This is a link that we can all see. We can all see you mixed your labor with this. Or we can see the receipt you have when you purchase it from the original person who mixed his labor with it. This is an objective link that is available universally for observation by the whole world, and therefore is one of the first steps in facilitating peaceful social interaction. Secondly, the rule is universalizable because it applies to any conceivable property owner. If he's the first user, then he has the claim. Or if he is the transferee of the first user, then he has the claim. We're not saying only redheads can be owners. This is a universalizable rule, so it satisfies the universalizability requirement. And finally, it's conflict avoiding because everyone can see the objective link linking the owner to the property. It is perceivable to the senses and to the reason. If you were to attempt to assign property titles on any other grounds, let's say we use verbal declaration, so anybody who says property belongs to him is the owner. Would that be conflict avoiding? Would that be in conformity with the norms taken for granted and presupposed in argumentation? Of course it wouldn't be conflict avoiding, because anybody could just say, oh, I own that property, and then somebody else could say, no, I do. How do we resolve that? Then a third person comes along and uses verbal declaration to say he owns it. So that's not conflict avoiding. Or brute force. So again, that's automatically ruled out. Or how about saying that the third, fourth, and fifth users are really the owners? So then the first user can't even do anything. He's got to sit there and starve until the third or fourth owner shows up? Again, that would make argumentation impossible because we'd all be dead. So all these factors that we see as norms implied in argumentation or presupposed by the arguers then become filters to filter out competing norms for society, such that what we are left with is the libertarian norm of first user private property rights. Now that's probably the shortest space in which this has been explained, and it doesn't answer every conceivable question you might have about it, but it is nevertheless, I think, a very intriguing account here, and it's pointing in the same direction as the other natural rights approaches, but it comes at it from a different angle. In fact, when Murray Rothbard first heard Hoppe's argumentation ethics, he said, this is a sweeping and intellectually very exciting new approach to the study of individual rights. He said, it makes my own natural rights approach seem positively wimpy by comparison. So it's quite interesting. It's not accepted by everybody, but I think it's intriguing and worth looking at. Well, now I'm just about at my time, so I'll conclude by saying that although you don't have to believe in natural rights at all to be involved in what we're doing. You could just be a utilitarian and say society just works better if you don't have a Fed, and society works better if people aren't killing each other. But there are other people, I think, who are attracted by the moral argument that it's not just more useful if we don't kill each other, it's morally wrong if we kill each other. It's morally wrong if we steal from each other. This is the moral argument that I think is the most compelling, and that's at the heart of what we're doing. And the arguments that I've made today and that I've elaborated on from these other thinkers are all pointing in that direction, and we have the great privilege of being defenders of this truly liberating and deeply moral teaching. So thank you very much.